Hello there out there in the internet world. Welcome to our weekly live. I know it's been a little bit of time since we've had one of these because I was out of town and then we did the master class last week. So this week we're getting back into our regular planned scheduled time frames here. So I'm going to actually start streaming in multiple locations. So it's not just going to be in the Healthy Helpers Hub on the Facebook group. I'm also going to do my YouTube channel and probably going to try and do LinkedIn and a couple other places so that more people can have access to these trainings. And the goal of it is to give, again, really people that are looking to avoid burnout, avoid that place of not really loving what they do or not really loving that aspect of their life, find tips, tools, and tricks to try and move beyond it. And again, coaching is what I do, and coaching may be a great fit for you, and it might be exactly what you're looking for. And then we can dive deeper into that on a more individual basis. But if it's not right now for you, these are awesome avenues for you to be able to get some takeaways and some new ways to try things out in life. And so that's why I'm doing these. I do them once a week. They're about 15 minutes each. And if you're looking to dive deeper, you know where I'm at. You can always put a comment. You can send me a message. You can definitely reach out to me so that we can actually get on the books and find out if coaching is a good fit for you. So today's topic is one that's really close to my heart. And a lot of times I feel like it gets confused for people. This idea of gratitude and using gratitude to get out of your mindset of scarcity. And I'll talk about what scarcity is and also like how to use gratitude effectively. The thing that I think for a lot of people is that when you think about gratitude, it's hard to access that gratitude, particularly when you're in a struggle or you're facing a conflict or you're facing a moment of uncertainty or you're facing trauma or you're facing a sense of like there is no silver lining in this particular situation. And the thing with gratitude is that it's not about a silver lining. It's about finding what it is that I can appreciate about myself, about my skill set, about my resources, about the situation that I've learned and grown from that helps me to move forward in life. So even when I'm in a struggle, gratitude is really the only way to get my brain from a place of scarcity and into one of abundance. Okay. So when we think about gratitude, first let's back up a little bit and talk about what scarcity mentality is. So scarcity mentality, this is really comes from a lot of different sources. I love Stephen Covey's definition of it. It was where like the concept of a scarcity mentality is I'm looking at life as if it was a finite pie. Okay, so there's only a certain amount available to everyone. So if my spouse or my friends or my family or somebody in my life gets a big portion of that pie, I have less of that pie that I can take. Okay. So this idea of scarcity mindset, again, we're surrounded by it in our whole world. The whole world is taught there's finite resources. Okay. There's a finite amount of time. There's a finite amount of you to go around. There's a finite amount of really whatever you're trying to accomplish. There's only a certain portion that you can achieve easily, and then it's hard, right? So like this idea that if I don't get my slice of the pie, I'm already stuck in scarcity. That's a big struggle for a lot of people. So our scarcity mindset can truly take over that idea that there's not enough, right? Like there's not enough of me. I'm not enough. There's not enough to go around, right? That mindset can truly get stuck, particularly when you're facing a struggle. Okay, so when I'm in that moment, I'm in that moment of decision, I'm in that moment where it's like, oh shoot, I've got to figure out what it is that I can do about this situation, or I have to figure out the solution to this problem. Okay, so again, if I'm facing a challenge, typically it's like I've got to go into problem solving mode, right? I mean, that tends to be at least the way I go. I don't like sitting in problems too long. I like trying to figure out what's the solution that I can take and strive for here, right? So if scarcity mindset starts to come in, though, I start doubting like crazy. Again, we've been talking about that inner critic that's in our head a lot of the time. that inner critic starts to take over, particularly when I'm in scarcity mindset. And so when I'm in that scarcity place, what I start to do is I start to see the problem as, the obstacles are just so big. There's no way I can overcome this. And so I start believing the scarcity. I start believing that there is no way to move beyond this problem. And it's easy to just throw my hands up in the air and say, oh, see, here's another incident that tells me I can't do this, right? So a lot of times when I'm working with people, they are in that space either around their work, when they're facing burnout at work, or they're in that mindset around, relationships because they've been burned too many times and they're trying to figure out, like, how do I live in this relationship or move beyond it? So this idea of like burnout as it shows up in this scarcity place, a lot of times it's so much stress and overwhelm pulls you into that scarcity mindset, and that pattern leads you to burnout. Okay, so I get stressed out. I go into the scarcity place. It's not enough. It's never enough. I can never accomplish this thing. I get more stressed out. I am never enough. More stressed out. Never enough. I'm burnt out. Okay, so it starts to become like this rote pattern that goes in our heads. And the one way to truly break that is to turn gratitude on in some capacity. Now, again, gratitude is different than positivity. Okay, let me say that again. Gratitude is different than positivity, because positivity is trying to turn something that's negative or turn something into a positive light. Gratitude isn't about turning something positive. It's about recognizing reality in a way that's from a lens of what gifts have I been given? What gifts have I used to accomplish this? What have I done within me to make this happen? Okay, so gratitude isn't about just putting that silver lining in the clouds, right? It's not about just trying to find what's good about this situation. It might be sometimes for some people, but most of the time, gratitude is a practice that's saying, okay, what have I learned in this? What have I accomplished because of this? How can I look at this situation from a perspective of learning and growth rather than from a place of suffering? Okay, so this is where gratitude differs from positivity. And a lot of times people are like, well, am I just supposed to read affirmations and that's supposed to make everything better? I'm like, no, that's a positivity mindset, which some days that'll work for you. Other days it's not. I had a great example recently. I had a client that was really trying to reestablish their careers, trying to figure out, like, what am I doing, and is what I'm doing valuable? And so they were going through this whole like place of scarcity. It's not enough. It's never enough. I don't have enough to give. I'm not reaching enough people. I don't know if what I'm doing is really where I want to be contributing in the world. Okay, so they're going through like this big crisis in their brain. And the first step was going through the overwhelm and the stress, and the overwhelm and the stress. So those were all happening. Okay. And so what then started to show up was this burnout and saying, well, I might as well just walk away from it. It's just too much. I can't handle it. And it's not providing me satisfaction or joy in life. So obviously it's not the right fit. What we worked on in that situation was saying, okay, walking away may be the choice you make. Okay, there's times where making that choice is your only choice. I've got to walk away from this. Okay, but other times it's a different option, and it's about perspective taking. Okay, so instead of saying I got to walk away from this is too much, I can't handle this, it's saying, what perspective could I take instead in this situation? What can I be grateful for, even in this struggle? All right, so this person was having a lot of struggle with finding passion in their work. They're finding a really huge struggle with identifying why it is they're doing what they're doing. Okay, and for them, it was the overwhelm, the stress pattern was getting so big that it was hard not to just live in that burnout place and say, I don't care about it anymore. I got to walk away. When we backtracked a little bit and say, okay, what about the job is overwhelming? And what are you learning from that overwhelm? And what they came up with was the overwhelm is that I have such a strong desire to reach more people, and I'm not finding the avenue to get there. So they're getting frustrated with the processes and the things that weren't, quote unquote, working in their mind, that they were ignoring resources they had access to that might support them in reaching more people. So instead of being able to delegate, or instead of being able to find those resources and use gratitude to say, you know what, I have these people in my life that might be able to help me get to this audience, or I have these resources in my life that might actually open up avenues to really good introductions. What they were stuck in was, I've got to do this myself alone. And that pulls them right into scarcity. It pulls them right into overwhelm and right into that give up mentality. Okay, so this idea of like, okay, how do I access gratitude when I'm in struggle? It's saying, okay, so even though this struggle is the thing that's like right here, it's like my blinders, or it's like right in front of me, I got to look beyond the struggle, either this way, to outwards towards others, to say, okay, what about this world have I learned because of this struggle? Or I have to look this way to say, what am I learning about myself in facing this struggle? Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Like, we can use gratitude to get our brain into a place of abundance when we're struggling. But it's being able to change the perspective from living in the suffering and the overwhelm to a place of saying, what am I learning and how am I growing because of this struggle? And if this is something you relate to, I'd love to hear it in the chat. Like, what thoughts are you having when you're sitting there going, oh my gosh, like I'm facing the struggle right now. And instead of being told, I've got to have a positive outlook on this, right? That's not what I'm saying. It's not about having a positive outlook. It's being able to say, I am having a realistic outlook on the situation, and I'm having a positive mentality about myself handling the situation. I'm having a positive mentality about myself reaching out to the world about this situation. Okay? That's where positivity can support you in getting into abundance. It's not just saying, oh, that horrible situation that I'm living through right now is great. No one should tell you that. If you've ever been told you need to find a silver lining of that horrible situation you've been in, that's not gratitude. Okay? I've heard it, like the door closes, another one opens. Yeah, it's important to recognize there's always opportunities. And it's also important to allow yourself some time to acknowledge that pain point. Okay? I've got to acknowledge that I'm in a place of suffering before I can learn from it. I don't have to live in the place of suffering, which is what scarcity pulls you into. Okay? Scarcity totally pulls you into live in that suffering. And gratitude, again, it's acknowledging the reality. It's acknowledging, let me look at the situation for the facts of it. Not making assumptions, just the facts of it. And let me look at myself or the world around me to see how I can get through this struggle and come out the other side stronger. Okay? Because you have so many internal resources, you have so many gifts, you have so many people in your life that want to support you, that when you start to live in the struggle alone, that's a moment to pause and say, wait, how could I access gratitude right now? Okay, some things to help with this. So I'm going to give you a couple tips in helping with this. One is like focus on what you have already. Okay, so what have I created in my life? What accomplishments have I made? What relationships have I cultivated? Even if you're in the struggle of, that was another client I'm thinking of right now. It's like they were in a struggle of like a breakup, and what they were trying to figure out is like, how do I find value in myself outside of this relationship when I've been attached, really my identity, to this relationship. So being able to separate identity, like what about me do I like? What about my capabilities and capacities do I appreciate? What do I want to promote in the next relationships? What do I want to learn from this relationship? Right? So this idea that like burnout is pretty much like scarcity mindset on overload, right? So that's what burnout is. It's like I don't have anything left to give, and I don't really care about this anymore. It's easier for me to walk away than keep pushing. All right. And that scarcity is like, I'm not enough to make this happen, right? Like that's where it starts to tie in. The gratitude side of things is like, I'm facing a challenge. I have a lot of capacities to face this challenge. I might learn as I'm facing this challenge that it's not something that I want to do anymore. If you learn that, fine. That's a great insight to have. You can be grateful for that insight. And that could help you make the decision of what is more aligned with what you want. So this idea too that, when we're in this place of burnout and scarcity thinking, and we're facing that struggle, what tends to happen are people really start to like pull themselves into this place of judgment, right? That inner critic starts to take over. And when that judgment happens, that's when it's easy to get caught in the scarcity. Okay, so I'm in judgment. I'm definitely making a whole bunch of assumptions about myself, and I'm lost in this overwhelmed situation. Gratitude here would be able to say, okay, even though I'm facing this struggle, I still have created these successes in my life. I still have created this expertise, these accomplishments, these relationships, this career, whatever that piece is that you can hold on to and say, actually, no, I have created something pretty amazing, even in spite of or because of this challenge. That's accessing gratitude in spite of the scarcity, all right? Choose the people in your life around you wisely. So first one is acknowledge your accomplishments. The second tip here is choose the people in your life wisely. If you have a whole bunch of people surrounding you that are stuck in scarcity thinking, they're going to pull you right down with them. Okay. Now it's not saying that you're just going to cut a whole bunch of people out of your life. You might choose that. That might be the avenue for you. But it's more about, if I'm in a place of scarcity and I want to be accessing gratitude, then I want to choose the person I reach out to that I know has a place of gratitude in their heart, that they live in that place more frequently, because I need somebody to help me access that sometimes, right? So there might be times where I'm in the back of my head saying, what the heck am I doing, right? Like, how did I end up here? And when I reach out to somebody else that might be stuck there in that same spot, it reinforces it. It reinforces that negative thinking. It's commiseration, right? And there's times and places for commiserating about the problems, right? But if I'm looking for solutions, I want somebody that's more solution focused. I want somebody that I can choose, that I know is in more of that headspace that I want to be in myself. Okay. If you hear me on this one, comment with headspace in the comments, whether you're watching this on replay or live. That idea of like, I want somebody that's there with me in the same mentality, or in an opposite mentality if I'm trying to get myself out of this stuck place. All right. The next thing is like, choose to leave situations with both sides winning. It doesn't, especially situations where the challenge is, well, one side's going to win, one side's going to lose. Like there's a way to leave a situation with both sides winning in some respect. You might not get all of what you want, and they may not get all of what they want. But how can you still come out of it with a winning attitude rather than getting stuck in that negative mindset? Incorporate gratitude daily. So this is a practice that I tell people to work on, especially when I'm working with them in coaching. Really start to recognize what capacities you have and what capacities you want to use when you're facing challenges and struggles, and what resources you've got to develop to face those challenges and resources. So do I need to have new people? Do I need to hire people? Do I need to invest in myself or in someone else, right? Do I need to just talk this out with someone? Okay, that's being resourceful is really valuable when it comes to pushing yourself out of that comfort zone of the stay in that suffering, or stay in the scarcity thinking, okay? And then train yourself to recognize the possibilities. So instead of getting stuck in the all or none, which is another training we'll be doing here soon, is this black or white, all or none thinking. Instead of getting stuck in this option or that option, recognize that there's possibilities all throughout those 2 points, okay? Ask yourself, what's my third option? What's my fourth option? What's my fifth option? So that you can actually see the possibilities to solve this problem or get beyond this challenge is way bigger than what you maybe originally thought, okay? Instead of the rock and the hard place, there could be a whole bunch of nice soft things in the middle, okay? being thoughtful of like, how do I really face the challenge? And then being grateful that you took the time to actually acknowledge what you could do differently. All right. Again, gratitude is throughout the whole moving from scarcity to abundance. And so when you're thinking about how do I move myself this way, it's accessing those steps, right? So acknowledging your accomplishments, choosing the people wisely, who are you going to interact with when you need support, choose to leave situations with both sides winning, incorporate gratitude daily, and then train yourself to recognize the possibilities. If you can start those 5 steps when you're in the struggle of life, there's a lot that can be accomplished. You'll start seeing that the struggle doesn't feel as hard, even if it is still hard. Okay. So what I want you to think about, and this is a bit of my call to action for you, is if this is an area that you're saying, man, I could use some support on this, consider coaching. Coaching is a really great avenue to support your growth and to support you shifting this mindset and just to hold you accountable to those thoughts and the things that might be pulling you back into scarcity and getting you new options. All right. So consider coaching. I'll put the link in the comments below if you want to schedule a strategy conversation. Again, that's a 45-minute conversation where we'll talk about if coaching is a good fit and what you're currently dealing with. We'll think about packages that fit. If you're sitting there saying, I'm not sure that's right for me just yet, then keep coming to these. Invite people to the Facebook group. Invite people to these weekly webinars. Again, I'm going to start streaming on different avenues here, so different platforms. Right now it's on Facebook and YouTube, and I will also be adding LinkedIn next week. But I'd encourage you, keep getting people involved in this, because I think, again, the more people you have surrounding you with the same mindset, the better off you'll be. So if you have any comments, questions, thoughts, please leave them in the chat. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Take good care.